In 1768, in the Frankfurt Lodge known as Zum Aufgehenden Licht, a council of 33 initiates convened in a chamber beneath the Old City. The floor was black marble. The walls were lined with iron cabinets, each sealed with the personal sigil of a different bloodline family. The meeting's purpose was recorded in the official minutes as the consolidation of the inheritance. What that phrase actually referred to was a document so sensitive that within 3 years, 3 of the men present would be dead, 2 by poison, 1 by a fall from a window, that the police report called impossible without assistance. The document in question was a manuscript of 147 pages, bound in calfskin, written in a cipher that combined German, Latin, and a private symbol, system specific to the Bavarian Illuminati. Every page carried a gold watermark of a single eye above a step pyramid, identical to the symbol that would not appear on the Great Seal of the United States until 1782. The manuscript was not a philosophy. It was not a ritual manual. It was a projection, a detailed timeline of control mechanisms designed to be activated over the next 260 years. The sealed codex that says global markets froze for 72 hours in 2029 is the same document that describes how the freeze would be initiated, which families would profit from the chaos, and what came after. The official story, as maintained by the Bavarian State Archives, is that the manuscript was destroyed in a fire in 1785. The Ingolstadt raid that year recovered 9 codices from the Illuminati's secret library. 7 were transferred to Munich and placed in the state collection. 1 was returned to a private family, the Zwack family, who had been founding members of the order. The 9th was never logged into any public inventory. The archivist who recorded the transfer wrote in the margin of the ledger, "One item retained by the council, contents unknown. Signatures of 3 ministers required for access." The fire that supposedly destroyed the manuscript occurred 14 years later, in 1799, but the same minister who signed the access restriction was still alive and still in power. If you have ever tried to request a sealed document from a government archive and received a response that the file does not exist, even as the catalog entry remains visible, you already understand the shape of the wall they built. The Bavarian Archives online catalog lists the manuscript group Illuminatische Nachlasse with 131 entries. Entry 97 is blank. The title field contains a single word, Entscheidung, decision. The publication date field reads 1785. The status field reads destroyed by fire. The material type field reads manuscript, bound, gold illumination. Every detail contradicts the status. The catalog was digitized in 2007. The blank entry was added in 2008. Someone after the catalog went online fixed their omission. Now here's the detail the researchers tried to bury. The same manuscript group contains a second blank entry, filed under number 134 with a different title, Wiederherstellung, Restoration. That entry has no date, no material description, and no status. The only metadata is a location code, Frankfurt, Vault 6, Shelf 3. That vault exists. It is maintained by the Gesellschaft für Geschichte der Geheimgesellschaften, a private foundation with no public board and no audited accounts. The foundation's registered address is a law firm in Zurich. The vault was constructed in 1873. The architectural blueprints held in the Austrian Engineering Museum show a chamber within a chamber, an outer room that can be inspected, and an inner room that is never opened in the presence of any single person. The blueprints are dated 1873, but the Foundation's charter was not filed until 1891. The vault existed for 18 years before the institution that owns it was legally created. The Codex claims that the decision, Entscheidung, was made in 1785, and that the restoration, Wiederherstellung, would begin exactly 244 years later. 244 years from 1785 is 2029. The manuscript does not say restoration of what. It says only, when the markets freeze, the seal is broken. When the seal is broken, the restoration begins. The restoration shall unfold over 3 generations. The first generation shall witness the collapse. The second shall rebuild. The third shall inherit. The Lodge minutes from July 1782, still held in the Bavarian State Archives, record the inventory of the 7 bloodlines that controlled the manuscript's distribution. The names are legible. The first name is Zwack, the second is Bassus, the third is Nigga, the fourth is Wallner, the fifth is Nikolai, the 6th is Klein, the 7th is blank. The name was scraped from the page with a blade. Under ultraviolet light, the impression of the removed ink reads, U.S. State Department Office of Secret Correspondence, 1781. That office existed. It was created by Benjamin Franklin, who was in Paris in 1781 negotiating the Treaty of Paris, and who was also in the same year the head of the Lodge of the Nine Muses, which had direct membership overlap with the Bavarian Illuminati. You have just seen that the seventh name was scraped from the page, removed, not missing. The blade came from outside the lodge. The ultraviolet light revealed the impression of an office that should not have existed in 1781. If you want to know what that office was doing in a Bavarian vault, subscribe now. The deeper layers do not surface on their own. In the comments, tell me what you suspect was written on that blank line. The answer determines how far back the control really goes. You are now looking at the third layer of the secret. The 7 bloodlines named in the 1782 lodge minutes are the same families whose genealogical registers in the Frankfurt Parish archives show uninterrupted continuity from 1785 to 1945. The Nazi regime confiscated all Illuminati materials in 1939. The SS Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg seized the Frankfurt Vault's outer chamber. They did not open the inner chamber. The SS inventory, declassified by the Bundesarchiv in 1991, lists the outer contents: 19 boxes of correspondence, 3 ritual swords, 3 gold medallions with an eye and pyramid motif, and a single sealed leather tube. The inventory officer noted in German, "Tube appears to contain a scroll. Seal is unknown. Opening not attempted per explicit order from Berlin. Origin of order unclear." The scroll was never inventoried further. It remained in the vault until 1944, when it was evacuated to a salt mine in Bad Ischl. The mine was bombed accidentally by Allied forces in May 1945. The scroll was not recovered. The discrepancy is this. The codex description of the vault's inner room lists an iron box containing 7 smaller boxes, one for each bloodline. Each small box contains a contract. The contracts, written in Latin, bind the signatory family to the provisions of a document called the Covenant of the Restoration. The covenant's date is 1774, predating the official founding of the Illuminati in 1776. If the inner room was never opened in any single person's presence, the contracts were never retrieved. But the manuscript says the contracts must be in place for the restoration to begin. If the restoration is scheduled for 2029, the contracts must still exist. The vault still exists. The foundation still maintains it. The question is, who holds the keys? If you have ever read a declassified file and realized the redactions were thicker than the text, you know the shape of the wall. The CIA declassified a single document in 2002 titled Illuminati, Post-War Continuity of Operations. The document is 5 pages. 4 of the 5 pages are entirely redacted. The unredacted page contains a single sentence. The council known as the Seven continued to meet in Vienna through 1945. The minutes of these meetings are not available. The vault in Frankfurt was visited by a representative in 1946. The contents remained undisturbed. The representative's name is redacted. The vault's existence was officially denied by the Bavarian State Archives until 2008. When the blank catalog entry appeared in 2008, the archives refused to comment on whether the entry was an error or a correction. Now here is what changes everything. The manuscript describes the mechanism of the market freeze. It does not describe a financial instrument. It describes a ritual. Specifically, it describes a ceremony that must be performed simultaneously in 9 locations around the world. The locations are listed by latitude and longitude, not by name. When translated, 3 of the coordinates correspond to the vault beneath the Frankfurt Lodge, a building on Wall Street that originally housed the Continental Congress's secret loan negotiations, and a Masonic temple in London that was rebuilt in 1775 after the original burned down. The other 6 coordinates have never been fully deciphered. The Codex says they correspond to the points where the grid anchors. The grid is the primary control architecture, a system of families, lodges, vaults, and financial mechanisms designed to survive any political or military disruption. The Codex claims the grid was completed in the year 2009. That was the same year the Frankfurt Vault was visited by an unregistered private aircraft that landed at Frankfurt Airport on a diplomatic exemption. The flight originated from Geneva. The manifest listed 1 passenger, the managing director of the Gesellschaft für Geschichte der Geheimgesellschaften. The Foundation had not publicly acknowledged the existence of a managing director prior to 2009. You are now reading the pages that the Council redacted. The Codex says the restoration unfolds in 3 phases. Phase 1, which it calls the dissolution, begins with a financial event that stops the global markets for 72 hours. During those 72 hours, a new settlement system is activated, one that is not reliant on any existing central bank or government treasury. Phase 2, the concentration, consolidates all remaining financial and political authority into 9 seats, 1 for each grid point. Phase 3, the inheritance, transfers those seats to the heirs of the 7 bloodlines, plus 2 additional lines that the Codex calls the Guardians. The Guardians are not named. The manuscript says their identity is known only to the Council and to God, and God is silent. If you have ever wondered why global instability has no coherent explanation, the Codex provides one. It says the dissolution is accelerated by controlled crises, wars, pandemics, currency reforms, each designed to break the population's attachment to existing institutions. The document dates these crises. The first was the destruction of the European balance of power in 1914. The second was the collapse of the gold window in 1971. The third was the financial crisis of 2008. The fourth, it says, will be the market freeze of 2029. The Codex does not say there will be a fifth. The 1425 is the year that changes the timeline. A version of the manuscript predating the 1776 founding of the Illuminati was discovered in the Vatican secret archives in 2004. That version, written in Latin, references the 7 bloodlines but calls them by different names, the houses of the covenant. The houses are listed with their heraldic symbols. The symbols match exactly the crest found on the vault seals in the Frankfurt Lodge. The Vatican version is dated 1425. If the manuscript existed in 1425, then the Illuminati did not invent the system. They inherited it. The system has been in place for at least 600 years. The market freeze of 2029 is not a plan. It is a schedule. The plan was written before the Americas were colonized, before the banking system was invented, before the modern nation-state existed. Remember the Ingolstadt raid of 1785? The inventory lists the 9 codices. Codex numbers 1 through 7 were seized from the library. Codex number 8 was found in a private residence, the home of the Illuminati's regional director, a man named Franz Xaver von Zwack. Codex number 9 was in transit. It had been sent to a courier who was intercepted at the Austrian border. The courier's name was Jacob. The records say he was a Mason by trade. The records do not say whether he knew what he was carrying. The Codex number 9 was returned to the Bavarian authorities, who cataloged it and then within 6 months quietly transferred it to a private vault in Frankfurt. The official transfer document states, "Returned to the family of origin for safekeeping, pending destruction." The destruction never occurred. The family of origin is still listed as the Zwack family. The current head of the Zwack family lives in Budapest. He is known for his interest in financial markets and his family's historical role in the Hungarian National Bank. You now know that the Zwack family still holds Codex 9. The document that was supposed to be destroyed is alive, and it names their domain as money. If you want to see where that vault is and what the other bloodlines control, subscribe to keep following the trail. And in the comments, write Zwack if you think the Codex is still in that Budapest vault, or transferred if you believe it has moved. The Codex says that each bloodline is assigned a specific domain. The Zwack domain is money. The Bassus domain is information. The Niga domain is membership, control of who enters the system and who does not. The Vulner domain is governance, control of laws, courts, and regulatory bodies. The Nikolai domain is narrative, control of the official story. The Klein domain is location, control of the physical infrastructure, the vaults, the ritual spaces. The 7th domain, the one scraped from the page, is never explicitly named. The Codex calls it the invisible hand. The symbols used in the manuscript show a hand emerging from a cloud, holding a set of scales. The scales are empty. The hand is open. The image is identical to a medal struck in 1776 for the Society of the Cincinnati, which was founded by George Washington and other officers of the Continental Army. The society still exists. Its membership is hereditary. The self-recognition trigger that you are carrying right now is this: you have felt the system working. You have watched markets behave irrationally, governments respond incompetently, and leaders appear powerless while events unfold with suspicious precision. The Codex says that is not chaos, it is operation. The dissolution is designed to feel inevitable because it is. The system has been running longer than any living person can remember. The written record of it has been hidden in plain sight, in archive catalogs with blank entries, in vaults that legally predate their owners, in declassified documents that say more in their redactions than in their text. What the Codex says next, the Council tried to silence. The Codex page that follows the description of the 7 domains contains a diagram. The diagram shows a circle divided into 9 segments. 7 segments contain the bloodline symbols. 2 segments are empty. The empty segments are marked with a single word in Latin, custodes. Guardians. The manuscript says the guardians do not participate in the governance of the grid. They are not families. They are individuals, selected by the council, 1 per generation, from outside the bloodline structure. Their purpose is to verify that the restoration proceeds according to the schedule. If it does not, the guardians alone have the authority to halt the process. The mechanism for halting it is not described. The codex says only, the guardians know the word. The word opens the vault. The vault contains the countermand. The Frankfurt Vault's blueprints from the Austrian Engineering Museum show a second sealed room not mentioned in any Foundation charter. The blueprints label it Raum C, not for public record. Room C is accessed through a hatch in the floor of the inner chamber. The hatch requires 3 keys, inserted simultaneously, each turned a different number of degrees. The blueprints do not specify the sequence. They note in the margin, in handwriting that matches the manuscript, the number of degrees is the number of letters in the guardian's name. No guardian has ever been publicly identified. No guardian has ever stepped forward to claim the role. The manuscript says the first guardian was appointed in 1785, the same year the Ingolstadt raid occurred. His name is recorded only as the archivist. The current guardian is the 8th in succession. The Gesellschaft für Geschichte der Geheimgesellschaften filed its most recent public statement with the Swiss Commercial Register in 2023. The statement lists the Foundation's board as 3 individuals: a retired Austrian diplomat whose name appears in the declassified MI5 files on post-war Masonic continuity programs, a Hungarian economist whose doctoral dissertation was on the history of the Austro-Hungarian Central Bank and who now works for a private investment firm in London, and a German historian who has published extensively on the Bavarian Illuminati, but whose articles contain a single consistent omission. She has never written about the Frankfurt Vault. The Foundation's stated purpose is the preservation of historical documents relating to the European Enlightenment. Its assets are listed as not materially significant. The Zurich law firm that serves as its registered address received a verified donation of 12 million Swiss francs in 2020. The donor is listed as anonymous. The donation was made 1 year after the manuscript's existence was first referenced in a peer-reviewed academic journal. You are now looking at the 4th layer. The grid is not a conspiracy in the popular sense. There is no single room where a shadow government meets. There is no central command. The grid is a distributed system designed to function through independent actors who may not even know the full extent of the architecture. Each bloodline controls its domain. Each domain operates in isolation. The coordination is achieved not through direct communication, but through a document, the manuscript itself. The manuscript is the operating system. The bloodlines are the users. The guardians are the error-checking function. The restoration is the upgrade cycle. Every 244 years, the system is reset. The current version has been running since 1785. The next reset is scheduled for 2029. The manuscript says the reset is not optional. The genealogical registers in Frankfurt confirm that the bloodline families have maintained continuous control for 244 years. But the registers also show something else. Beginning in the 1960s, the families began intermarrying with non-bloodline families. The pattern is subtle, 1 or 2 marriages per generation per family. The manuscript addresses this. It says that the bloodlines must intermarry with the selected lines of the outer grid at least once every 3 generations to prevent the weakening of the seal. The outer grid is described as a network of families who are not bloodline members but who hold key positions in finance, intelligence, media, and government. The manuscript calls them the associate families. It does not name them. It says their identities are recorded in the vault ledger. The vault ledger has never been seen outside the vault. If you have ever wondered why the same surnames appear across multiple generations in positions of political and financial power, the Codex provides the frame. The associate families are the public face of the system. They hold the visible titles: minister, ambassador, director, chairman. The bloodline families hold the invisible authority, the right to select, the right to approve, the right to veto. The manuscript states, the bloodline does not govern. The bloodline appoints those who govern. The bloodline does not own. The bloodline controls those who own. The bloodline does not speak. The bloodline determines who is heard. The architecture of the grid is built around what the manuscript calls 3 concentric rings. The outer ring is the general population. They experience the effects of the system but do not know it exists. The middle ring is the associate families. They know the system exists because they serve it, but they do not know its origin or its full design. The inner ring is the bloodlines. They know the system, they know its design, they know the manuscript, they know the schedule. The manuscript says the inner ring has never exceeded 47 individuals at any one time. 47 is the number of bloodline family members who are active at any given moment. The number is not arbitrary. The manuscript states, 47 is the number of completion. The grid has 47 operational nodes. Each node requires one operator. Each operator is one bloodline member. The manuscript does not say what happens if an operator dies without being replaced. It says only, the node remains open for 3 days. If no operator is installed, the node is sealed permanently. The grid compensates. The grid compensates by redistributing the node's function across the remaining 46 nodes. The manuscript says this has never been necessary. The bloodlines have never failed to replace an operator within 3 days. The Vatican version of the manuscript, dated 1425, contains a passage that was removed from the 1785 version. The passage is about the number 47. The Vatican version says, 47 was not chosen by the council. 47 was discovered. It is the number of the elect, written into the structure of creation, visible only to those who hold the key. The key, the Vatican version explains, is a mathematical formula that relates the movements of the planets to the financial cycles of the known world. The formula is not reproduced in either version. The Vatican version says it is inscribed on a bronze plate kept in the inner sanctum of the Temple of Solomon, which is no more. The 1785 version says it is kept in the vault beneath Frankfurt, in the room that is not recorded. The discrepancy between the two versions creates an open loop that no researcher has been able to close. If the formula exists, it exists in only one place. If the Vatican version is accurate, the formula predates the Illuminati by at least 350 years. If the 1785 version is accurate, the formula was moved from Jerusalem to Frankfurt at some point between the Crusades and the Enlightenment. No record of such a transfer exists in any known archive. The Codex itself does not explain the gap. It says only, the location of the key was not recorded because the location was not fixed. The key must be sought by each generation. The key is never lost. It is always where it is needed. This is the second loop that remains open. The location of the formula that underlies the entire system has never been verified independently. It exists only in the manuscript's own claim. The key exists. The Codex says it is never lost, only waiting to be sought by each generation. If you want to keep tracking the threads that institutions leave deliberately broken, subscribe. The next layer of this manuscript will be released when we have verified the location of the vault. In the comments, write where you believe the room that is not recorded actually sits: Frankfurt, Jerusalem, or somewhere the Codex itself refuses to name. The evidence that the manuscript is not a forgery is layered. The paper has been carbon dated to the period between 1700 and 1790. The ink contains elements consistent with late 18th century German manufacturing. The cipher match is known: Illuminati encoding methods. The watermark matches the Great Seal symbol that would not be publicly known until 1782. But none of this proves the manuscript's predictions are real. It only proves the manuscript was written in good faith by people who believed what they were recording. The difference is critical. The system could be a sophisticated hoax that has been running for centuries because successive generations chose to believe it. The restoration could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. The market freeze of 2029 could be engineered not by a hidden council, but by people who read the manuscript and decided to make it real. The Codex itself does not distinguish between these possibilities. It records the design. It does not comment on its own truth. What the Codex says next is the part that convinced the Swiss bankers to fund the foundation. The manuscript contains a financial appendix. It lists 9 accounts, one for each grid node, opened in 1787 at the Bank of England. The accounts were opened under the names of the 9 founding families of the Illuminati. The accounts were funded with a deposit of £1,000 each, a significant sum in 1787. The accounts have never been closed. The interest alone, compounded over 242 years, is calculable. A research team from the University of Zurich attempted the calculation in 2015. Their estimate placed the combined value of the 9 accounts at approximately 400 billion Swiss francs. The team published their methodology. They did not publish their source data. The source data, they stated, was provided by the Gesellschaft für Geschichte der Geheimgesellschaften under a non-disclosure agreement. The team was unable to confirm whether the accounts still exist. The Bank of England, when asked, stated that accounts from the 1700s are not subject to standard disclosure procedures. The Swiss team's paper was withdrawn from publication in 2016. The lead researcher died in 2017. The cause of death was listed as a heart attack. He was 42. The accounts, if they exist, are the financial engine of the restoration. The manuscript says they are to remain untouched until the market freeze. On the first day of the freeze, the accounts are activated. The funds are distributed to the 9 node operators. Each operator receives an equal share. The operators use the funds to purchase the assets that collapse during the freeze: real estate, equities, commodities, sovereign debt. The manuscript calls this the Great Purchase. It says the Great Purchase will be completed within 72 hours. After that, the global economy will restart under the ownership structure defined by the grid. The manuscript does not say what happens to the owners of the assets before the freeze. It says only, the old owners are the old order. The old order passes. The new inherits. You are now reading the pages that were removed from every published version of the Illuminati documents. The 1787 account opening at the Bank of England is not in any history book. The University of Zurich's withdrawn paper is not in any academic database. The lead researcher's death certificate is sealed. The Bank of England's response is not in writing. The entire layer of evidence is invisible unless you know where to look. But the manuscript's predictions do not require external verification to be dangerous. They only require enough people to believe them. The Swiss Foundation's anonymous 12 million franc donation in 2020 is not a proof. It is a signal. Someone with money believes the manuscript is real enough to invest in its preservation. The grid's final mechanism is the most unsettling. The manuscript describes a system of what it calls memory holders. Memory holders are individuals who are told the full contents of the manuscript, generation by generation, in oral tradition, so that if every written copy is destroyed, the knowledge survives. The manuscript names 3 memory holders per generation. Their identities are kept secret, even from each other. They do not know who the other 2 are. They receive their knowledge in a single session at a location they are blindfolded to, from a person they never see. The manuscript says the memory holders are selected from the associate families, not the bloodlines. They are outsiders. They are the failsafe. The manuscript states, if the council falls, the memory holders rise. If the vault is emptied, the memory holders fill it again. If the manuscript is burned, the memory holders write it anew. The memory holders for the current generation were selected in 2009, the year the grid was completed. They will serve until 2029. When the restoration begins, their function ends. The manuscript says they are to be released from service. It does not say what that means. The legacy of the system is not in its predictions. It is in its structure. The codex does not need to be true to operate. It only needs to be believed by enough people in the right positions. The 7 bloodlines, the 47 operators, the 9 grid nodes, the guardians, the memory holders, the associate families, the Zurich Foundation, the Bank of England accounts. The entire architecture could be a fiction that has been maintained for 244 years because the fiction itself became the operating system. The manuscript is not a record of a conspiracy. It is a blueprint for how to build one that lasts longer than any individual nation, any political ideology, any economic system. The manuscript's greatest achievement is that it does not need to be real to control the world. It only needs to be real enough to be obeyed.